I accidentally found a thick stack of flight tickets in my wife's vanity. She flies to the US at least once a month. On the back of every ticket, it says, Bodo, I miss you so much. And one right on top is a ticket to Iceland for a few days from now. Suddenly I was thrilled, thinking she was going to take me to see the auroras I'd always dreamed of. But then I saw a moment's post from her, one that got away. The photo showed a woman's back that I knew all too well, with the caption, "Watch the aurora with you one more time, and I'll go home with you." That's when I realized, even though my wife never mentioned her unforgettable first love, she never actually forgot him. But that was clearly the thing I wanted to do most, even though we were only 0.1 centimeters apart. Yet, my wife never paid any attention to me, not even once. I didn't argue, and I didn't question her. I simply chose to disappear from her world. When the clock on the wall pointed to 8 o'clock, Liu Ruyan finally came home carrying a cake. She walked straight into the living room and casually placed the cake in front of me. "Happy 5th anniversary." My expression was unreadable, showing absolutely none of the surprise she expected. Our anniversary was the day before yesterday. Then I looked at the cake again, at the crushed peanuts decorating the top. Also, I'm allergic to peanuts. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's expression stiffened slightly, a hint of apology surfacing on her face. She pulled a square box from her coat, handed it to me and said, "Sorry, I've been traveling for work a lot lately. I'll pay more attention next time." I opened the box to take a look, and sure enough, it was a star-shaped sweater necklace and yet another one of the countless star-themed gifts I've received over these 5 years. When I first asked Liu Ruyan for the reason, she said she liked stars. But later, I found out she gave me star gifts only because of her first love. Seeing me accept the gift, Liu Ruyan just assumed I bought her excuse. "We missed it this year, but I'll make it up to you with a grand anniversary next year," she said. Then she took off her dress and walked into the bathroom. But what she didn't notice was, standing not far away, I just quietly watched her back as she left, and murmured softly, "No need, Liu Ruyan. We don't have a next year." Just then, my phone rang suddenly. It was my boss, Chen Zi. "Have you really decided to transfer abroad?" I gave a small, I've made up my mind. A year ago, the company established a branch overseas and needed a resident director. My boss brought it up to me many times, emphasizing how rare the opportunity was, and insisting I should go. But I turned it down for Liu Ruyan, because I promised I would never abandon her. Liu Ruyan and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Back in elementary school, her parents fought constantly. They were rarely home all year round, and simply didn't care about her. That was when I barged into Liu Ruyan's life. Later, her parents divorced, and both started new families. They both chose not to take her, a kid, not even 8 years old, helplessly watching her parents pack their bags and leave, leaving her all alone sitting on the stairs, wiping her tears. It was me who smiled and walked up to her step by step. "Little sister, my dad made sweet and sour ribs today, and I can't finish them. Come to my house and help me eat some." She refused the first time, but couldn't withstand my persistent pestering. From the initial sweet and sour ribs, to the later boiled fish and braised prawns, I dragged her to my house for meal after meal. Through those childhood days of feeling abandoned, I accompanied her through it, day by day. Later we went to college together, and it was then that she met Ji Boda. She was the genius beauty of the medical department, and he was the tall, rich, and handsome star of the dance department. They became the universally recognized perfect match in school, and the golden couple in the teacher's eyes. But after graduation, to pursue his dreams, Ji Boda ignored Liu Ruyan's pleas and firmly chose to go abroad. She was abandoned yet again, and this time, I was the one by her side again. That night, she got completely wasted, usually so proud and self-reliant. She hugged my waist with red eyes. "Am I not good enough? Why does everyone abandon me?" My heart ached, suppressing my sorrow as I stroked her hair. "You still have me. I will never abandon you." She slightly looked up, and before I could even react, she suddenly raised her head and kissed me. When the kiss ended, my cheeks were burning red. She buried her face in my neck and whispered softly, "Chen Zi, Starting today, I will forget Boda. Will you be my boyfriend? My long-held wish finally came true. Later, we went all the way from dating to proposing, stepping into marriage. Over the past 5 years, she kept that promise well. She never mentioned Boda again and treated me well too. It once made me think she had truly forgotten him. Until that day, I posted on moments that I wanted to see the northern lights. But because of Liu Ruyan's work as a doctor, I knew it was hard for her to find the time. So I never brought it up to her. However, a few days before our anniversary, I found tickets to Iceland in her drawer. I actually thought she saw my posts and prepared a special anniversary surprise for me. So I deliberately pretended not to know, waiting for her to surprise me herself. But on the eve of our anniversary, she just left a message saying she was going on a work trip and left with the tickets. I was still a bit confused until I saw Boda's post that day. Watch the aurora with you one more time, and I'll go home with you. The attached photo was the back of a woman. Even though it was blurry, I still recognized at a glance that the person was exactly Liu Ruyan, who claimed to be on a work trip. That's when I noticed. On the day I made my post, Boda also made a post before flying back, saying he wanted to see the aurora one more time. I finally understood. Even though she hasn't mentioned her first love in 5 years, she hasn't forgotten him in the slightest. At this moment, I finally decided to completely give up on this hopeless marriage. Hearing my resolute tone over the phone, my boss seemed to guess what happened and sighed. Then came his comforting voice. Don't be sad, Chenze. People have to move forward. How about this? I bought you a ticket for the end of the month. Just treat this month as a vacation. Take your time to sort out your personal affairs. After all, you probably won't be coming back once you leave. I nodded. Thank you, boss. The next day, I went to the company to hand over all my work. Then I had lunch with my colleagues. Everyone's joking and laughing somehow blew away the faint sadness of parting. After eating, I smiled and said goodbye to everyone. But as soon as I opened my front door, I froze. Liu Ruyan was actually still at home. Seeing me, she frowned. Why are you back so early and carrying a box? I paused for a second, but quickly recovered and explained calmly. The company gave me some time off recently, so I brought back some stuff I might need. Why didn't you go to work today? Hearing my question, Liu Ruyan looked slightly stunned. After a moment, she just said she wanted to clear her head and took annual leave. She's a workaholic who basically never takes days off. How could she possibly take annual leave now? Just to clear her head. Just as Liu Ruyan was about to explain further, I just nodded and carried my box past her into the room. I knew better than anyone. She took the time off to go see the aurora with Boda. The old me might have pressed her for answers or felt sad. But now that I've already planned to let go, I didn't even have the energy to look into it, seeing me believe her so easily. In that split second, an inexplicable emotion swelled in Liu Ruyan's heart. She couldn't tell if she felt more relieved or disappointed. When I finished unpacking and came out, Liu Ruyan remembered the anniversary she got wrong. Plus, since we were both going to be home recently, she offered to make it up to me. I was too busy to spend time with you before. But since we're both off work now, just tell me whatever you want to do. Seeing how serious she looked, I felt a bit spaced out for a second. Then I thought about it and said, then do 3 things for me. The corners of her mouth lifted slightly. Okay, what's the first thing you want to do? I smiled too, though the smile never reached my eyes. Cook a meal for me. Hearing my request, Liu Ruyan blanked out because it was such a simple thing to do. But she didn't ask too much and just said, okay, let's go grocery shopping together later. I nodded and got lost in thought watching her back as she got ready. That Liu Ruyan knows how to cook is something I've known for a long time. It's just that all these years, she never cooked for me. Back when we were just friends, she never offered to cook for me. Later, when she was dating Boda, she gave all her tenderness to him. After finding out Boda had a bad stomach, she cooked for him and delivered it every day. Back then, to cater to his feelings, she even offered to cut down contact with me. So naturally, I never had the chance to eat her cooking. Later on, we went from dating to getting married. But by then, she had started working at the hospital. And when she got busy, she'd even forget to eat herself, let alone cook for me. So, after all these years, this was actually the first time. In the afternoon, we went to the supermarket for groceries. But as soon as we got home and put the stuff down, Liu Ruyan's phone rang. She picked it up, glanced at me slightly, and answered it. Ruyan, my friends are throwing me a welcome party. Will you come too? She subconsciously agreed, and even her voice naturally softened a bit, helping her out on the side. My hands suddenly stopped. Without looking up, I just asked casually, who is it? The person on the phone seemed to hear me, and raised his voice. Is Chenze there too? Ruyan, bring Chenze along. We haven't seen you guys in so long. Liu Ruyan wanted to refuse, but seeing that I had already looked up at her, she swallowed the rejection right at her throat, and agreed to it. The welcome party was today, so she didn't mention cooking anymore. She drove me straight to the address Jiboda sent. When we arrived at the private room, everyone else was already there. It was really loud inside, with people catching up and joking. Some even bringing up Jiboda, Liu Ruyan's passionate romance from back in the day. But as soon as they saw us walk in, the voices slowly died down. I found a seat next to Liu Ruyan. As soon as we sat down, I noticed her subconsciously shift a little away from me. Then her eyes drifted over to Jiboda, who was surrounded by the crowd. Seeing that we had arrived, Jiboda quickly raised his glass to her. Then his gaze turned to me beside her. Ruyan, Chen, Si, I heard you guys have been married for 5 years. Congrats. At the mention of 5 years, Liu Ruyan's expression shifted slightly. After all, she and Jiboda broke up exactly 5 years ago. She really tried to control herself, to not go overboard in front of me. But the moment she saw Jiboda, she couldn't help but care for him. Watching Jiboda drink shot after shot, Liu Ruyan started urging him, you have a bad stomach. Drink a little less. When the AC temperature in the private room got a bit too low, she hurried to bring him a jacket. If Jiboda even looked at a dessert, she'd proactively bring it over to him. Eating the dessert, Liu Ruyan brought him. Jiboda smiled, his gaze passing her and landing on me, with a subtle hint of showing off in his eyes. Ruyan, taking care of me like this, aren't you afraid your husband will get mad? Only then did she realize what she had forgotten. Turning around somewhat panicked, she saw my calm yet icy face. She came back to my side. Sorry. Chenze, I shook my head, interrupting her explanation. It's fine. Old classmates haven't seen each other in years. It's normal to take care of him. Liu Ruyan looked a bit flustered. She grabbed a plate of dessert from the table and placed it in front of me. I remember you don't like noisy places. If you're not used to it, I can take you home. First, I shook my head, but when my eyes fell on that plate of dessert she brought over, I suddenly chuckled. The sense of irony in my heart deepened. Peanuts again. I literally just told her yesterday that I'm allergic to peanuts. But Liu Ruyan, feeling the crisis was averted, had already returned to Jiboda's side. Just then, someone said the vibe was getting a bit dull, and suggested we play a spin-the-bottle game. Liu Ruyan and I also joined in. The first round landed right on Liu Ruyan. Everyone instantly got hyped up, but after she drew the penalty, everyone lost interest. Jiboda leaned in for a look. The penalty was to choose a guy in the room and kiss him. Ugh, Ruyan brought her husband. You don't even have to guess who she'll pick. So boring. Liu Ruyan glanced at Jiboda. After a long silence, she unexpectedly chose to take a penalty drink instead. Everyone was stunned by her choice, and turned to look at me. Before I could say anything, Jiboda already spoke up to smooth things over. Looks like after 5 years, Ruyan is still a pure goddess. Thinking of their passionate romance in college, not many people bought that excuse. Everyone laughed it off and started the next round. But unfortunately, it landed on Liu Ruyan again. After drawing the penalty and seeing it was just reveal your photo album, the people around couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It's just revealing her photo album. With Liu Ruyan's workaholic personality, even if there are no photos of me, it would probably just be work-related. Because you can't skip the penalty twice in a row, Liu Ruyan had no choice but to open her photo album. But when they saw the photos inside, Everyone took a sharp breath, subconsciously holding their breath. It was completely filled with photos of Ji-Boda. The air instantly froze. I got up to leave, but Liu Ruyan reached out and grabbed me. It would have been fine if she hadn't, but when she did, the dense red rash on her hand was exposed to days. People gasped in surprise. Ruyan, your alcohol allergy is so severe. Why did you still drink? But before they finished speaking, they remembered the photos in her phone, and as if suddenly understanding everything, they all cast their eyes on me. Some were enjoying the drama. Others looked sympathetic, but I acted as if nothing had happened. Removed her hand. Dropped the sentence. I'm going to buy medicine. After these 2 rounds, everyone lost the mood to keep playing, and made excuses to leave one by one. When I came back with the medicine, only Ji-Boda was left, helping Liu Ruyan walk out. Seeing me approach, he let go. Since you're here, I'll hand Ruyan over to you. With that, he walked straight away. I fed Liu Ruyan the allergy medicine, and called a cab to take her home. By the time we got home, Liu Ruyan had completely sobered up. Seeing me still staying by her side, she breathed a sigh of relief. Chen Zi, listen to me. You know I've never liked taking photos. Those photos were taken a long time ago. I just forgot to delete them. I just looked at her deeply, and calmly nodded. Yehi, I know. Photos you didn't delete for 5 years. A person you couldn't forget for 5 years. Liu Ruyan, you are so deeply in love. The next day, probably out of guilt, a well-rested Liu Ruyan quickly said she wanted to make up for yesterday's meal. I refused her. No need. In a few days, it's Grandma's death anniversary. Come with me to visit Grandma's grave. You promised to do 3 things for me. This is the second one. Liu Ruyan froze it for a second, then nodded and agreed. On the day of Grandma's anniversary, Liu Ruyan and I set off for the cemetery early in the morning. This was the first time since Grandma passed away that Liu Ruyan came to visit her. In the past, on this day, every year, she would always say she had a business trip. But it wasn't until I found that thick stack of flight tickets to the US she had hidden that I finally knew every so-called business trip of hers was actually her sneaking off to see Ji-Boda. I walked up to Grandma's grave, and just as I was about to speak, Liu Ruyan's phone rang. After she answered it, I don't know what was said on the other end, but her face suddenly changed, and she hurriedly left the cemetery. Chanze, something came up. She had to leave first. She didn't even have time to leave an explanation. Liu Ruyan, I couldn't hold back, and still called out her name, but she just paused for a second, and still left without looking back. I pulled my gaze back to Grandma's grave, and placed the flowers in my hand in front of the tombstone. I didn't want Grandma to worry, so I rambled on about a lot of other things. But in the end, after holding it in for a long time, I still couldn't hold back the tears in my eyes. Grandma, I'm getting a divorce. It was barely noon when I left the cemetery. The weather wasn't too hot yet, and since this place is pretty remote, it was hard to get a cab. So I figured I'd walk for a bit, and catch a ride where there was more traffic. But little did I know, danger would come with the increasing traffic. A harsh honk sounded. I turned my head to look, and saw a car with failing brakes, speeding right at me. A few seconds later, I crashed heavily onto the ground. Screams erupted all around, mixed in with the chatter were voices urging people to call 120. The next second, I completely lost consciousness. When I woke up, I had already been taken to the hospital. I vaguely heard someone talking nearby. Dr. Liu, a car crash patient was just sent here too. The situation is very serious. Can you come take a look? The person she was talking to hesitated for a few seconds, but still chose to decline. Have someone else cover it for now. I have a more important surgery on my end. That voice was very familiar. Almost instantly, I recognized that it was my wife. Thinking of her back as she hurried away from the cemetery, how could I not understand right now? That more important surgery naturally referred to Ji-Boda. The doctor saw that I was awake, and hurriedly told me to contact my family. But I shook my head, gritted my teeth, and took the surgery consent form. I signed my own name, and gave a self-deprecating smile. No need. My wife is busy doing surgery on someone else. An hour later, Liu Ruyan finally walked out of the operating room. Fortunately, Ji-Boda wasn't seriously injured in this accident. And the surgery was very simple. She finally breathed a sigh of relief, remembering what the nurse had said earlier. She didn't take off her scrubs, but asked the nurse beside her, "Where is the other patient?" That was sent in earlier. Which operating room? Following the nurse's instructions, Liu Rian quickly walked over to my operating room. She pushed open the door. But when she saw the person on the table, covered in blood, she froze completely in her tracks. When I woke up, Liu Rian was resting her head by my bed. I moved my hand slightly, and she woke up with a start. Seeing that I was awake, her eyes were full of guilt and lingering fear. The usually aloof woman hugged me tightly for the first time. "Chen Zhe, I'm sorry. I really didn't know the other patient was you. I'm sorry. There won't be a next time." At that moment my face was still a bit pale. But in the eyes, looking at Liu Rian, there wasn't the slightest bit of blame. "I understand, Rian. It's okay." I smiled and shook my head, generously forgiving her. As a wife, abandoning her husband, and as a doctor, abandoning a more severely injured patient out of selfishness. I gave her behavior the maximum amount of understanding. But Liu Rian, having been forgiven so easily, felt a bit uneasy in her heart. It's like this again. For some reason, that heavy sense of unease washed over Liu Rian's heart again. She looked at the man lying on the hospital bed, quiet and wordless. Even though we were so close, she suddenly felt like I was so far away. She held my hand tightly, panic flashing in her eyes. "Chen Zhe, you won't leave me, right?" I nodded without changing my expression. "Yeah, I won't leave." Having gotten my assurance, Liu Ruyan finally relaxed. When she looked up and saw my IV drip was almost finished, she turned and left the ward, saying she was going to get a nurse to change the IV. But even when the IV bottle completely bottomed out, she still hadn't returned. I lowered my eyes and gave a mocking smile. I picked up the call button nearby and called the nurse to change it, saying she'd go get the nurse for me. She could have clearly just used the call button, but insisted on going to the nurse's station herself. The round trip shouldn't even take a few minutes. Yet she left and never came back. She was just that impatient. The moment she heard my forgiveness, she instantly rushed to her sweetheart's side. When Liu Ruyan came back, it was already afternoon. She carried a lunchbox, looking utterly apologetic. When her eyes met the already changed IV bottle, she breathed a sigh of relief. Then she put down the lunchbox. "Eat something first. You can only have liquid food right now." So I made some congee. "Try it." This was the first time I ever ate tea. Something Liu Ruyan made with her own hands. It was very bland and suitable for a patient. It looked like she put a lot of heart into it. I didn't say a word, and slowly finished the congee under her care. Then, I picked up my phone, and saw that Boda had updated his moments. The photo attached was a bowl of congee, exactly the same as the one I just drank. The caption read, "Congee specially made for me by the person I like. It's a savory congee, but it tastes a bit sweet. So good." I calmly locked my phone, turned my back to her and closed my eyes. I stayed in the hospital for half a month. During this time, she was the one taking care of me, except for occasionally disappearing for a while. The food she brought could always be seen as an exact replica. Over on Boda's side, she could genuinely be called responsible. Every time she ran back and forth between us, she'd always apologize to me with a guilty look. And every time I'd generously choose to forgive her, Liu Ruyan always felt a strange twinge in her heart, but couldn't pinpoint where it came from. Ultimately, she chose to ignore that weird feeling. The day I was discharged, Liu Ruyan came to pick me up. Luckily, I didn't have much stuff, so she still had a free hand to support me. When we got down to the underground parking lot, I went to sit in the passenger seat, but after loading the luggage, Liu Ruyan stalled on getting in. I turned to look outside the car, but only saw her back. When she reappeared, Boda was right beside her. I didn't expect Boda to be discharged on the exact same day. I spaced out for a second, and Boda had already walked up to me. His voice was deep, dripping with the smugness of someone who knew he was favored. "Chen Zhe, so sorry to bother you guys again, but I get carsick. Do you mind if I take the passenger seat?" His sudden provocation stunned both of us present, but, hearing his word, Liu Ruyan still subconsciously looked at me. Her obvious bias made Boda even more cocky. He stared at me intently, hoping to see anger and grievance on my face. But he was bound to be disappointed. I stayed perfectly calm, didn't say a single word, just stepped out of the car and walked to the back seat. This move didn't just confuse Ji-Boda about what was going through my head. Even Liu Ruyan had no idea what I was thinking. She probably just thought I was angry at her because of Ji-Boda. She dropped Ji-Boda home first. When she was about to turn around and explain to me, I had already closed my eyes, looking like I was fast asleep. Liu Ruyan didn't dare to bother me, so she could only drive straight home. I sat in the back seat the entire ride without saying a word, giving her zero chance to speak. After we got home, I woke up right on cue. Out of guilt, she kept hovering around me, trying to be helpful, saying she was free today and could keep me company the whole time. She thought I'd be happy, but I just raised an eyebrow and dropped 2 meaningful words. Is that so? My rhetorical question made Liu Ruyan feel like I knew something. A bit flustered, she asked what I meant by that. I just shook my head. Nothing. You're a doctor after all. If the hospital needs you, you definitely wouldn't ignore everyone else just for me. It was a perfectly reasonable excuse. At least for the 5 years we've been married, she never once ditched her hospital work for me. If it weren't for this time, when she abandoned me, the more critically injured patient, for Ji-Boda, I probably would never have known that she could actually drop everything for her own selfish desires. But Liu Ruyan didn't think that deeply. She thought I was being genuine, and breathed a sigh of relief. She stayed with me for a long time, taking great care of me. If I were just her patient, I'd probably love having such a responsible and patient doctor too, and wouldn't have to agonize over who was truly in her heart. Night slowly fell, just as I was surprised she hadn't left for some other reason yet. She predictably got a phone call. It was Ji-Boda. He was crying over the phone about a broken light. I was trying to change the bulb, but my wound tore open. There's a lot of blood on the floor now. Asking if she could come over and take a look. Liu Ruyan glanced at me, looking visibly conflicted. She hesitated, unable to give him a straight rejection, but also taking too long to say yes. Guessing her hesitation, he started groaning softly over the line. One suppressed groan of pain after another traveled through the phone into her ear, making her heart clench. Finally, she looked at me, her face full of guilt. Chen Si, the hospital suddenly got a really tricky patient. I have to go check on it. Hearing this, I didn't stop her at all. Instead, I was totally understanding. It's fine. Go ahead. The patient comes first. With my permission, all her guilt vanished. She grabbed her coat by the door and rushed out. Before leaving, she only dropped one line. Then get some good rest at home and wait for me. I'll try to make more time for you in the future. Watching her hurry away, I actually laughed out loud. There won't be a future. Liu Ruyan, I'm not waiting for you anymore. 5 hours later, seeing the clock on the wall, about to strike midnight, I decided to give her a call anyway. I listened to the long dialing tone until it hung up automatically. Then I dialed a second time. This time someone picked up, but it was a man's voice. Chen Si. Looking for Ruyan. She's taking a shower right now. It's not a good time for her to answer. The way he said it was practically dripping with possessiveness. If an outsider heard that, they'd probably think Ji-Boda was Liu Ruyan's legitimate husband. He thought I'd definitely lose my temper over this. But surprisingly, my tone remained completely calm, without a hint of anger. It's fine, since Ruyan is with you. Then, let him get some good rest. Ji-Boda couldn't figure out why. Even after he provoked me so blatantly, I could still hold back my anger. I didn't even look the least bit sad. Was I just that good at holding it in? Or did I love Liu Ruyan so much that, as long as she was by my side, nothing else mattered? The next day, seeing Liu Ruyan return looking completely normally, I guessed that Ji-Boda didn't tell her about that phone call last night. But I didn't care. I was leaving anyway. Liu Ruyan, on the other hand, probably felt that she really owed me a lot lately. So for the next little while, she stayed right by my side. She went out to eat with me and watched movies with me, until one day, she suddenly asked me to help her pick out a giftie. I went with her to jewelry stores, went with her to accessory shops, and even looked at flowers together. But she always felt those gifts weren't good enough, constantly dragging me around, asking if gifting this or that would be inappropriate. I was actually very responsible and gave her a lot of suggestions. Seeing her rack her brain over a gift. For some reason, I suddenly thought of the gifts she picked out for me over the past 5 years. When choosing my gifts, she was definitely never this indecisive. After all, for every holiday and anniversary, the only things she ever got me were related to stars. Because I showed no reaction, she didn't notice anything wrong. After getting the carefully selected gift, she paid for it, ordered flowers from a florist, and was ready to take me home. But that's when I suddenly spoke up. "Who is this gift for?" She finally realized and explained to me. "It's for Boda. He gave me 2 tickets to his modern dance performance and invited me to take you along. I figured if we're going to his show, I should at least bring him a gift." I nodded and didn't ask anymore. Soon, it was the day of the modern dance performance. We got to the theater and sat in our assigned seats. I originally thought she had no interest in this stuff and was only here because of G. Boda. After all, back in the day as an art student myself, I also invited her to some art exhibitions. But all I ever got from her was a "I'm not interested" in that reply. But right as the performance started, she watched super intently. When G. Boda came on stage, watching his performance, she even started introducing the pieces to me. It wasn't until I saw Liu Ruyan listing off modern dance repertoire like she knew it inside out that I finally realized she wasn't uninterested in art. She just didn't care about art that had nothing to do with G. Boda. I gave a bitter smile, but ultimately said nothing. It probably wouldn't make a difference even if I did anyway. After the show, Liu Ruyan and I went backstage to wait for G. Boda to come down. I thought it wouldn't take long, but G. Boda was nowhere to be seen backstage. Just then, from the direction of the front lobby, chaotic shouting suddenly erupted. After asking around, we found out that a fire had suddenly broken out in the lobby. A lot of people were trapped there. I subconsciously looked at Liu Ruyan. Sure enough, her face began to fill with panic. She didn't even have time to think, and only had one thought left. G. Boda is still inside. I have to save him. I grabbed her hand, my eyes full of disapproval. There's a fire station right nearby, and people already called the cops. The firefighters will be here soon. It's too dangerous for you to go in now. But she couldn't hear my advice at all. She forcefully shook off my hand, pushed me away, and rushed toward the lobby recklessly. The firefighters arrived quickly and rescued everyone trapped in the lobby. When Liu Ruyan was brought out, at a glance, I saw a huge burn on her arm, but it was as if she couldn't feel the pain. Still holding tightly onto G. Boda's hand, terrified he'd be left behind, firmly protected by her, G. Boda was actually unharmed. After hearing that she had rushed into the fire later to save someone, the firefighters scolded her right to her face. They told her that no matter how anxious she was, she shouldn't be without protective gear and just charge in like that. Now that both of them were safely out of the fire, her heart finally settled. Hugging the panicking G. Boda, she comforted him softly. Hearing the firefighters scolding, she didn't talk back and just quietly took it. Soon, the ambulance arrived at the scene. Because of the injury on her arm, Liu Ruyan was taken to the hospital. From beginning to end, her hand never let go of G. Boda. I, on the other hand, was left far behind. I gave self-deprecating smile. How great their love is. How worthy of praise. For G. Boda, she risked her life running into a fire. For G. Boda, even if the most important thing for a doctor, her hands, got injured, she didn't care at all. I ended up taking a cab to the hospital myself. After asking around repeatedly, I finally found out where she was. Before walking into the inpatient department, I vaguely heard nurses gossiping. That man is Dr. Liu's husband. But who's the guy she kept holding on to and wouldn't let go of? One is her loving husband. The other is her unforgettable first love. I tossed those voices behind me, but couldn't help wondering, this time, what kind of excuse will you use to explain? When I walked into Liu Ruyan's ward, she finally remembered what she had forgotten. I saw her get up in a panic. She looked up at my face. But, as always, I was expressionless and showed no worry. Liu Ruyan knew she had really gone a bit too far this time, so she could only coax Ji-Boda to leave first. Seeing him walk out of the ward, she finally apologized to me, her face drained of color. Chen, say, I panicked too much back then. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave you behind. I sat by the hospital bed and looked at her gauze-wrapped arm. For the first time, I didn't just immediately say I forgave her. You promised me you would forget Ji-Boda. Does that still count? Her breath hitched before she nodded at me, giving me a definitive answer. It counts. Chenze, I really don't have any other feelings for him. Who knows if I believed her or not, but I never brought it up again. Liu Ruyan's arm injury wasn't serious. After recovering in the hospital for a few days, she was discharged. On the day she was discharged, I checked the calendar on my phone. Only 3 days left until I leave. 3 days before leaving, I deactivated all my social media accounts, including my phone number. It wasn't until Liu Ruyan realized she suddenly couldn't reach me that she anxiously came to ask what happened and why I suddenly deactivated all my accounts. I replied casually, I didn't deactivate them though. The accounts probably just bugged out. I'll check it out later. Actually, the excuse was super flimsy, but Liu Ruyan didn't think too much of it. After hearing my explanation, she felt reassured and turned to leave. 2 days before leaving, I packed up all my stuff, throwing away what needed to be thrown, dealing with what needed to be dealt with. Then, I had a lawyer draft divorce agreement for me. On my last day, before leaving, I gathered up all the gifts Liu Ruyan had ever given me, along with the flight tickets from the past 5 years of her sneaking off to the US to see Ji-Boda. I packed all these things into a box, and finally, writing in her tone, I put a love letter on top and mailed the whole thing to Ji-Boda. After all these years, she had never forgotten Ji-Boda. When I got back home after mailing the package, Liu Ruyan had just returned as well. She looked at the empty house and frowned. Couldn't help but ask, did you throw a lot of stuff away? Why does the house feel so empty? Maybe it was because I was leaving today, so I didn't hide it anymore. Yahoo! I threw away everything we bought when we got married. Liu Ruyan thought I was just decluttering, so she didn't take it to heart. Then, I'll go with you to buy new ones in a while. I didn't reply, but brought up the last request. When we got married, we had our reception at Fengxi Manor. Back then you told me, when we reach our golden anniversary, we'd throw another huge party there. Do you still remember? I remember. Why? The woman was slightly stunned, turning to look at me. We haven't reached our golden anniversary yet, have we? Out of the 3 things you owed me, there's still one last thing. Go with me to Fengxi Manor today. I want to go back and take a look. Regarding my sudden request, Liu Ruyan found it a bit strange, but ultimately agreed. When we arrived at the destination, Liu Ruyan followed behind me. Looking at my seemingly happy back, she spaced out for a moment. It felt like she hadn't seen me like this in a very long time. Looking back over this past month, in Liu Ruyan's memory, the deepest impression of me was me calmly telling her it's fine. While she was lost in thought, her phone suddenly rang, snapping her consciousness right back. She looked down and saw Boda on the screen, yet she didn't pick up immediately. Then, she looked up again at my back, ahead of her, and a trace of unease suddenly rippled in her heart. A voice in her head kept telling her that if she answered this call, she would lose me completely. But the urgent ringtone went off again and again. I heard the sound too. I turned back to look at her, and put back on my usual expression. It's fine. If you have something urgent, you can leave first. As if she got a free pass in an instant, Liu Ruyan ignored the inexplicable unease in her heart, and quickly answered the call. When she heard the tearful voice on the other end, saying he got hurt again, all her remaining rationality was instantly thrown out the window. Chenze, I'll be back in a bit. Look around by yourself first. She didn't even have time to say a proper goodbye. Before rushing out of the manor, I just watched her retreating back, and sighed deeply. Liu Ruyan, I won't be waiting for you this time. After lingering in the manor for a little while, I turned around and left. Our marriage started here, and now it ends here. I guess it's a fitting way to put a period on this relationship. When I got home, I grabbed the suitcase I had packed ages ago, left behind the already signed divorce agreement, and just hailed a cab straight to the airport. From start to finish, I left feeling liberated and completely resolute. When Liu Ruyan found Ji Boda, she actually discovered his so-called getting beaten and hurt was fake. She was a bit annoyed, but Ji Boda didn't take her anger seriously at all. He grabbed her hand and chuckled. Isn't it because these past few days, you've been busy with that Chen Zi and didn't have time for me? I missed you, Ruyan. When are you planning to lay your cards on the table with him? As soon as he said that, Liu Ruyan suddenly froze. She looked at Ji Boda in confusion, not understanding what he meant. Ji Boda read her confusion at a glance and felt a bit annoyed. He immediately went and grabbed that express package and raised an eyebrow at Liu Ruyan smugly. But since I already promised you, don't you need to divorce him first? I don't want to be the other man. Looking at the things in his hands, the tense string in Liu Ruyan's mind suddenly snapped. You said I mailed this to you. Her sudden raised voice startled Ji Boda. He grabbed the wedding ring from the side and tossed it to her. Who else would it be? The sender's address is right near your place. And isn't this wedding ring the one you took off a while ago? But I don't want the wedding ring you shared with someone else. You have to buy me a new one. She scrambled to catch the wedding ring, her mind going numb. The style and size clearly belonged to Fang Yuan's ring, and she had never sent these things to Ji Boda. So it was glaringly obvious who actually sent them. Seeing the utter shock on her face, Ji Boda realized she clearly had no idea about this. After a moment of thought, he figured out what had happened, and couldn't help but mutter, at least he knows when to quit. But the next second, he was violently shoved away. Liu Ruyan clutched the ring tightly in her hand. Suddenly thinking of Fang Yuan, whom she had left at the manor, she hurriedly got up, ignoring Ji Boda, shouting behind her, and frantically drove all the way back to the manor. But by the time she got back to the manor, Fang Yuan was nowhere to be seen. She turned around, got back in the car, and rushed back home as fast as she could. The house was completely empty. Not only was he gone, but anything related to him had been completely cleared out. She desperately searched the rooms, hoping he had missed something, but ultimately only found something on the living room table. She saw an already signed divorce agreement. At this moment, Liu Ruyan finally realized what Fang Yuan meant that morning when he said he threw away everything from their wedding. What he threw away wasn't just the traces of their time together. He threw away their marriage and threw her away. She stared blankly at the wedding ring in her hand and unexpectedly noticed that the spot where her own ring used to be was empty, and even the ring mark had faded a lot. Liu Ruyan suddenly remembered the first day she took off her wedding ring. Fang Yuan had asked her why she took it off. At the time, she didn't care at all, and just brushed him off with a random excuse, saying she took it off because it got in the way during surgery. He hadn't said anything then, but his eyes already held a look of knowing. He never asked about it again after that. Did he not see it? No, he just knew her answer all along. True, it wasn't her first day being a doctor, nor her first time doing surgery. Even if it was inconvenient for surgery, she always remembered to put it back on before. But later on, she never put it back on again. Did Fang Yuan realize something was wrong since then? But thinking carefully, that didn't seem right. Further back, it probably traced back to the day she came back from Iceland. That day, she brought him a crushed peanut cake he was allergic to, and he merely reminded her of it. And when she gave him a gift, he no longer showed the joy he used to have when receiving giftsies. Liu Ruyan subconsciously took out her phone to call Fang Yuan. It wasn't until she heard the automated voice on the phone say, "The number you have dialed is out of service," that she finally remembered. A couple of days ago, he had just deactivated all his accounts. Turns out, he had been giving signs that he was leaving all along. She just never paid attention. Ding! A notification sounded for a new email. She opened it up and saw it was from an unknown account. The message contained a photo. The photo was a screenshot of a moment's post. The person who posted it was Ji Boda. The caption read, "Watch the aurora with the person I like one more time, and I'll go home with you." The time the post was made was right on the day of their 5th wedding anniversary. So, he already knew back then. He knew her sudden departure on the eve of their anniversary wasn't for a business trip, but to go see the aurora with Nhi Recap. An overwhelming wave of regret swallowed her sanity. She finally realized how stupid she'd been. Her supposedly clever cover-ups were just like a transparent cloth in front of him, offering no concealment at all. But she had never wanted to divorce him. She just couldn't let go of her obsession with Nhi Recap. That's why, when she heard the news that he was coming back, she couldn't control her thoughts, and made a wrong choice. But he clearly could have stopped it. Why did he choose to leave so silently like this? She sobbed uncontrollably, then suddenly remembered that Fang Yuan must have sent this email to her. She quickly clicked on the sender's info, but what met her eyes was a screen saying the account had been deleted. He was so ruthless, not leaving her even a shred of hope. Her eyes landed on the divorce agreement on the table, and a spark of hope suddenly flared in her eyes. She hadn't signed it yet. They hadn't gotten their divorce certificate yet, which meant he was still her husband right now. Their marriage wasn't over just like that. She grabbed that piece of divorce paper and forcefully tore it to pieces. She wasn't going to sign it, and she wasn't giving up on him. But right now, Nhi Recap thought she needed to deal with someone first. Half an hour later, she knocked on Nhi Recap's door. Seeing it was Nhi Recap, a flash of pleasant surprise crossed Nhi Recap's face. He didn't think she would come back. Just as he was about to say something, a hard slap landed on his face. Smacky! He clutched his face with one hand, tears of grievance welling up in his eyes. Pointing at her with the other hand, he looked at her in total disbelief. You dare hit me? Even my parents never laid a hand on me. He thought his wronged look would at least evoke a shred of pity from her, but her eyes held nothing but anger. Anger mixed with a trace of hatred. Shouldn't I hit you? Who exactly gave you the nerve to go to Fang Yuan and send him all that nonsense? Nhi Recap, when you did all this, didn't you feel any shame? Is this what the Nhi family taught you? To knowingly be the other man and parade yourself in front of the actual husband? Do you have no shame? Her words were fierce, practically trampling his pride into the dirt. But they also ignited his fury. I have no shame. Nhi Recap laughed out of extreme anger and slapped her right back. Nhi Recap, aren't you the pathetic one? You say I have no shame. Then who was it that saw my Moments post and eagerly bought a ticket to fly to Iceland to see the aurora with me? Even I saw a post he made about the aurora. What about your so-called husband? Did you even see it? Did you ever offer to take him? Did I force you to go to Iceland with me? Did I force you to fill your phone with my photos? Did I force you to abandon him when he needed emergency care, to save me instead? Did I force you to ditch him time and time again? Isn't it just because you're cheap? I just wave my hand, and you come running to me like a lapdog. Nhi Recap had never seen Nhi Recap like this before. In front of her, he always acted like a spoiled young master, even when he threw little tantrums. It was mostly just playful flirting. But now, he was exasperated, his face twisted in malice, using highly humiliating words to shut down her outburst, and even slapped her. But also, because of his words, Nhi Recap finally realized that Fang Yuan had originally wanted to see the aurora too. So when he saw the Moments post of her and Nhi Recap going to Iceland together to see the aurora, how must he have felt? A wave of regret surged in her heart. Looking at the instigator of it all, she could no longer control her temper, and got into a physical fight with him. Nhi Recap was a woman after all, spoiled and pampered, naturally in terms of strength. She was no match for Nhi Recap. She took more hits during the scuffle, but he didn't get off easy either. From her hair pulling and kicking, he also ended up looking like a complete mess. In the end, their fight drew the attention of the neighbors, who called the police. The farce only stopped when the cops pulled them apart. But this brawl also caused a complete fallout between the two. Nhi Recap wanted to go find Fang Yuan whereabouts, but she only realized at this moment that she knew absolutely nothing about his social circle. The only thing she knew was his company address. But when she went looking, she only found out that he had already been transferred abroad. Other than that, she knew nothing. She went to Fang Yuan's boss. But even though he knew where Fang Yuan was, He refused to breathe a word about his whereabouts. She searched every possible place, but could never find a single trace of him again. 2 years later, at City A's airport, Fang Yuan walked out of the airport pushing his suitcase. He pushed up the sunglasses on his face and looked around, but didn't see the person he was expecting. He frowned and muttered under his breath, "The pickup Jack arranged isn't reliable at all. I'm already out here, and the guy is nowhere to be seen." It was just a quiet complaint, but a woman walking past him suddenly stopped in her tracks. "Fang Yuan." The woman's pleasantly surprised voice rang out beside him, and the wrist pulling the suitcase was suddenly grabbed. Fang Yuan's frown deepened. He turned to look at the woman holding on to him, pulled down his sunglasses, and the impatience in his eyes was crystal clear. Liu Ruyan. For the past 2 years, although Fang Yuan was abroad, he was a fashion designer after all. So he couldn't completely avoid the internet. He still kept up with domestic news, to some extent. So he knew that not long after he left, she deliberately exposed Ji Boda for knowingly being the other man and wrecking someone else's family. And Ji Boda, the former principal ballet dancer of the Bluebird Opera House, naturally faced immense backlash. After this incident, Ji Boda became notorious. Ultimately, due to public pressure, the Bluebird Opera House issued a statement firing him. The dream he had pursued for so long was completely shattered in the end because of his wrong choices. Originally, Liu Ruyan, as the cheating party, was also condemned by netizens. But because she was a top surgeon at the hospital, it wasn't so easy for the hospital to let her go. Moreover, although Father Liu hadn't cared much for her all these years, when Liu Ruyan was attacked by public opinion, the Liu group still stepped in to suppress the backlash, saving her from being punished. That's why, after returning from a business trip, she unexpectedly ran into Fang Yuan, who had returned to the country for work. But the moment she saw the undisguised disgust in his eyes, her heart ached again. "Fang Yuan, are you leaving again after coming back this time?" Fang Yuan didn't answer her question. His gaze fell on her hand holding him, and his voice was icy cold. "Let go." She reflexively released her grip, but the person who had disappeared for so long finally reappeared, and she couldn't bear to just let him walk away. Yet, the moment she let go, he treated her like a plague, violently stepping back several paces. "Miss Liu, please have some self-respect. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. Better not get too close." Hearing him say this, Liu Ruyan subconsciously retorted, "I didn't agree to the divorce. Fang Yuan, please give me one more chance. I really know I was wrong. I promise I'll never make a mistake like that again." "Fang Yuan, I didn't sign that divorce agreement back then, and we never got the divorce certificate. Right now you are still my husband." She looked at him affectionately, trying to reawaken the love he once had for her. Fang Yuan didn't expect her to say this, and he certainly didn't expect that, after he had voluntarily stepped aside for her and her unforgettable first love, why she was still desperately clinging to this marriage. Back then, leaving the country secretly without telling her was his oversight. But he just smiled. "It's fine. If you don't want an uncontested divorce, I can also file a lawsuit for it." He pushed his suitcase, walked past her, and continued forward. "Anyway, we've already been separated for 2 years. Even if I choose to sue, the court will grant the divorce in the end." After saying that, he didn't even look at Liu Ruyan's face, and just walked straight away. Liu Ruyan thought that by not signing the divorce agreement, she could keep Fang Yuan by her side, but she forgot that, in this world, an uncontested divorce isn't the only way. However, because of this, she finally understood how resolute Fang Yuan's determination to leave really was. Even though 2 years had passed, he still hadn't forgiven her. She couldn't stop the heartache. Staring blankly in the direction he left, she suddenly saw a girl run up to Fang Yuan, panting heavily. She naturally took the suitcase from his hand. He exchanged a few words with her too. Their demeanor relaxed and natural, looking like they'd known each other for a long time. So fast, he already had someone else by his side. In that instant, jealousy surged wildly in her heart. She wished she could make that woman next to him disappear forever. But, right now, besides secretly watching him from behind, she couldn't do anything at all. She didn't even have the courage to appear in front of him again. He hated her. Dr. Liu, why are you still here? The director is calling, urging us to hurry back. The other doctors who had fallen behind caught up. Seeing Liu Ruyan still zoning out there, they couldn't help but remind her. She finally snapped back to reality, taking one last deep look in the direction he left. She turned around and walked away. She wasn't going to let go this easily. At least right now, she was still his wife. That point wouldn't change. Meanwhile, on the other side, the driver got out and took the suitcase from Song Shiyue's hand. She accompanied Fang Yuan into the car first. Shiyue, why are you the one picking me up? The Song family was considered a leader in the fashion design industry, and Song Shiyue was the sole heir to the Song group, holding significant influence even abroad. If Fang Yuan hadn't been transferred abroad and promoted because of it, even if his company collaborated with the Song group, it wouldn't have been his turn. But since that collaboration, the two of them started keeping in touch more privately. Still, no matter how close they were, Fang Yuan never expected her to be the one picking him up. In slight disbelief, he asked her, "Can Jack really boss you around?" "Of course not, unless I'm willing to do it myself. Otherwise, even if the old man came, I wouldn't listen to a single word he says." She spoke with grand ambition, looking like a proud peacock. "I came to pick you up. Of course, it's because I wanted to see you." Her first sentence almost made him laugh, but her second sentence was so direct it killed the laugh in his throat. The fact that Song Shiyue ached him was something she had never hidden, but it was very hard for him to move on from his last relationship. Liu Ruyan had occupied the majority of his life, loving her secretly for 7 years, and being married to her for 5 years. He genuinely used to think that he would walk through life hand in hand with her. But Ji Boda, whom she pursued with everything she had, only needed to wave his hand to easily steal away all her attention. Even if she drew a line with Ji Boda later on, what was the point? The pain she caused him wouldn't disappear. The fact that she cheated wouldn't just cease to exist. Just because she tried to make up for it afterwards. He disliked her, was disgusted by her, and even hated her. Under these kinds of emotions, there was no way he could accept a new relationship. And right now, it was even more impossible for him to accept it. Song Shiyue, Fang Yuan sighed, looked at her and continued, "Although I really hate to admit it, I still have to tell you, I'm not divorced yet. 2 years ago, my departure was too hasty, even though I left a divorce agreement before going abroad. At the time, seeing her heart full of her first love, I thought once she saw the divorce agreement, she would agree to sign it. But I don't know for what reason. They fell out later and didn't end up together, and she never signed that divorce agreement. So, legally speaking, we are currently still married." His sudden revelation caught Song Shiyue completely off guard. She never expected that the guy she had been chasing for 2 years was actually still a married man. She felt a bit disappointed, but she didn't lose that slightly cynical, carefree vibe about her. Her tone was flirtatious. "It doesn't matter if you're not divorced yet. Anyway, from what you're saying, you're still going to divorce her eventually, right? If you don't mind doing it while still married, I can compromise a bit. But if you do mind, I can also wait for you to get divorced." How open and direct her words were. Absolutely shocked Fang Yuan. But he wasn't the only one shocked. There was also the driver driving in the front, who coughed violently a few times. He almost lost his grip on the steering wheel, his eyes constantly darting to the rearview mirror. It wasn't until he saw Song Shiyue's murderous glare that he quickly looked away, not daring to peek again. But after dropping them off at their destination, he quickly hid behind the car and made a call to the old master of the Song family. "Master," the young miss said, "she wants to be the other woman for love." Far away in another country, old Master Song picked up the phone, and the first thing he heard was this earth-shattering gossip. It scared him so much that the tea he just sipped sprayed right out. "What did you just say?" But Fang Yuan knew absolutely nothing about any of this. This time, returning to the country, it was originally because he had work to coordinate domestically. But now he had one more thing on his plate. He needed to get that divorce finalized before his next trip to France. Fang Yuan wasn't really sure why Liu Ruyan and Ji Boda ended up having such an ugly fallout in the end, and he had no interest in digging into their drama either. But he also didn't expect it to be so sudden. when he ran into Ji Boda again. It was at a charity gala. Fang Yuan walked in following his boss, Jack. Just as he stepped into the venue, he saw Ji Boda trailing beside a woman. He looked haggard, yet still trying to put on the airs of a rich young master. But the moment he saw Fang Yuan, anger went straight to his head. A piercing scream echoed through the entire hall. Fang Yuan, why are you here? In an instant, everyone's eyes locked onto him, and consequently the woman beside him also became the center of gossip. The woman's name was Feng Linlin, a notorious party girl socialite in City A. The most circulated rumors in their circle were the scandalous stories about her and her sketchy crew of friends. Ji Boda, as the young master, meticulously groomed by the Ji family. Originally, even if it was a marriage of convenience, he had enough leverage to choose a decent partner. But unfortunately, 2 years ago, he was involved in that massive scandal. Although the elite circles don't lack people who play around, those things usually stay within the circle. But Ji Boda's scandal was known to practically everyone, and he even lost his job because of it. Left with marriage as his only option, Ji Boda was forced to accept the matches his stepfather chose for him, those heiresses who also had a terrible reputation in their circle. After all, as long as their reputations didn't affect the business cooperation between the two families, it was still a profitable deal for them. But how could the once highly regarded Ji Boda accept an outcome like this? He fought with his stepfather. He fought with Feng Linlin, watching himself become more haggard by the day, while Feng Linlin remained incredibly arrogant. In the past, he couldn't find anyone to vent his anger on, so he just had to swallow his pride. But now, seeing Feng Yuan looking so glamorous and successful, he couldn't hold back the fire in his heart anymore. But before he could even say a word, Feng Linlin, thoroughly embarrassed by the whispers around them, slapped him right across the face. What do you think you're doing, making a scene like this? Where are your manners from the Ji family? The sudden attack from his fiancée, combined with the gossip and pointing fingers from the crowd around them, Ji Boda looked up, feeling deeply wrong, only to see Fang Yuan right in front of him, looking like he was just watching a good show. Furious and desperate, he charged right up to Fang Yuan. He raised his hand wanting to slap him, but Fang Yuan took a step back, and before Ji Boda could react, Fang Yuan returned that slap right back to him. Ji Boda, do you really think I'm that easy to bully? Ji Boda was completely stunned by the slap. In his impression, Fang Yuan was the definition of a coward. He stole Li Ruyan away, and posted those moments, visible only to Fang Yuan. Yet, Fang Yuan never showed any reaction. He only dared to swallow his grievances alone, and in front of him, even had to pretend he didn't care. But if he really didn't care, how could he leave, without a word, and deliberately leave those things behind, to make Liu Ruyan break up with him, causing him to end up in such a miserable state? And now, he actually dared to hit him. The more he thought about it, the more unbelievable it felt, and his face twisted even more hideously. You, bitch, you dare hit me. I'm going to kill you. But, the very next second, he was kicked right to the ground. Following that, came a cold, sharp voice. The word, bitch. I think that suits you a lot better. After all, knowing full well she had a husband, the one who shamelessly threw himself at her was you, wasn't it? Ji Boda slumped on the floor. He looked at the woman in front of him, absolutely dumbfounded. It was actually Song Shiyu. Fang Yuan, that bitch. How did he get Liu Ruyan to obsess over him, and then turn around and hook up with the heiress of the Song group? He didn't dare throw a tantrum at Song Shiyu, so he could only redirect his anger at Fang Yuan. But just as he opened his mouth, seeing that even Song Shiyue was protecting Fang Yuan, how could Feng Linlin let him speak any further? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Get the hell out of here now. Ignoring Ji Boda's struggles, she apologized to the two of them, and dragged him out of the venue. Seeing the troublemaker leave, with no more drama to watch, the crowd around them gradually dispersed as well. Song Shiyue looked him up and down. Seeing that Fang Yuan wasn't hurt, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Not bad, no injuries. You didn't make me, Song Shiyue, lose face. Even if I did lose face, It wouldn't be your face I'm losing, Miss Song, right? Fang Yuan rolled his eyes at her, utterly speechless. She, however, shook her head in disagreement. You are the man I've set my sights on. If you got hurt, people would definitely say, it's because I don't have the ability to protect the people around me. While the two were chatting, suddenly a figure forcefully pushed its way right between them. Liu Ruyan was never really interested in these kinds of galas to begin with, so she arrived pretty late. When the chaos happened over here, she had just walked in. Because Fang Yuan was surrounded by others on the innermost side, she didn't see him, so she didn't come over. It wasn't until Boda was dragged away, and the onlookers slowly dispersed, that she finally realized Fang Yuan was among the people involved in the dispute just now. She wanted to go over to him, but immediately saw two people acting intimately. An instant explosion of jealousy made her act before she could even think. She had already pushed her way in, but the moment she appeared, Fang Yuan, who was just talking and laughing, instantly darkened his face. Why did you come over here? Liu Ruyan's face was full of anger, while keeping a vigilant eye on Song Shiyu. Fang Yuan, what's your relationship with her? With a cold face, he took a few steps back, distancing himself from her, his tone tinged with impatience. What's my relationship with her? What does that have to do with you? As he spoke, it was as if he suddenly remembered something, and let out a scoff. Ah, I forgot. We're not divorced yet. You tore up the previous divorce agreement. Tomorrow I'll have someone draft a new one, and mail it to you. Remember to sign it. Hearing his word, Liu Ruyan couldn't help her eyes turning red. Fang Yuan, I really know I was wrong. Can you please give me one more chance? While they were talking here, over on the other side, Song Shiyu had already shimmied back to his side, and deliberately pitched her voice up, speaking to Liu Ruyan with heavy sarcasm. Fang Yuan, she's so mean. I'm so scared. The delicate fake voice rang in his ears, and in front of him was Liu Ruyan, about to go mad with anger. Fang Yuan didn't want to stay in the same place as Liu Ruyan any longer. He turned back, glared at Song Shiyu, and walked straight away. He came here with Jack because he had a job to do, not to stick around for their crazy drama. Seeing him leave, Song Shiyu quickly hurried to keep up with his pace. He didn't stop her, but when Liu Ruyan tried to follow as well, he turned back and gave her a look of utter disgust. Stop clinging like this, it's disgusting. Audio watermark ad removed. Audio watermark ad removed. Audio watermark ad removed. Audio watermark ad removed. Just one sentence made Liu Ruyan's advancing footsteps completely halt. She still didn't want to give up on him, but she also didn't want him to be disgusted by her. Fang Yuan was a man of his word. The very next day, he really had his lawyer bring the newly drafted divorce agreement to find Liu Ruyan. She had just torn up one copy, and the lawyer immediately pulled out another one. It's fine, Mr. Fang already guessed you would tear it. He specifically instructed me to prepare a few extra copies for safekeeping, so you can tear them to your heart's content. Liu Ruyan looked at the divorce agreement placed in front of her again, her right hand subconsciously covering her left, gently stroking the wedding ring on her ring finger. Later on, she had retrieved the wedding ring she had thrown away. She couldn't wear Fang Yuan's ring, so she put it on a chain and wore it as a necklace. She still stubbornly believed that one day that ring would return to the hand of its original owner. But she didn't know. Once some people decide to leave, it's forever. Tell him to come and talk to me himself. Otherwise, I won't sign it. The two of them sat face to face in a stalemate for a long while. Finally, the lawyer called Fang Yuan to ask for his opinion. In the end, they decided that in 2 days, they would talk in person. The 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. The location for the meeting was chosen by Liu Ruyan. She picked a couple's restaurant that they had frequented the most while they were married. Revisiting this old place, it would be a lie to say he didn't feel anything. But what Fang Yuan wanted to do most right now was still to get Liu Ruyan to sign the divorce agreement as soon as possible. Sitting down at the reserved table, he cut right to the chase, pulled out a divorce agreement from his coat, and placed it in front of her, sparing his words. Sign it. She looked at the divorce agreement, pushed in front of her for who knows how many times now, and stared blankly. It wasn't until a tear fell That his urging voice sounded again. Is there any other problem? If not, then hurry up and sign it. She looked up at him, her voice choked with sobs. Fang Yuan, I know I wronged you. I was stupid and couldn't see my own heart clearly. Even I didn't realize when I had truly fallen in love with you. As for Ji Boda, he was nothing more than an obsession from my youth that I couldn't have. I really know I was wrong. Fang Yuan, can you please give me one more chance? I promise. I will absolutely never make the same mistake again. Can't we just go back to the way things were before? Her words were sincere and pleading, but he remained completely unmoved. No, Liu Ruyan. Time doesn't go backwards. Damage can't be undone, and the established fact of cheating won't change. We can never, ever go back to the way things were. Fang Yuan felt absolutely no desire for her so-called going back to before. After all, her so-called before was him giving his all wholeheartedly in exchange for her fake gentleness and occasional half-heartedness. The look in someone's eyes when they love someone can't be hidden. But in the past, there was never any love in the eyes she looked at him with. Liu Ruyan closed her eyes in agony. After a while, it was as if she suddenly remembered something, and a glimmer of hope flashed in her eyes. You promised me before that you would stay with me forever. You said you wouldn't abandon me. She thought that by bringing up this promise, he would agree to stay, but all she saw was him let out a scoff and flash her a mocking smile. A promise, Liu Ruyan. Did you forget? I was never the only one who made a promise. When we got married, didn't you promise me you would forget Ji Boda and live a good life with me? But then what happened? Did you keep it? You can't even keep your own promises. So what right do you have to demand others keep theirs? Liu Ruyan's face instantly turned deathly pale. It was as if until this very moment, she finally realized Fang Yuan would never forgive her. But she still stubbornly shook her head, her eyes full of obstinance. I won't sign any divorce agreement. Fang Yuan, I won't just let go like this. Since he already despised her this much anyway, what did it matter if he despised her a little more? As long as she could keep him by her side, she was willing to be a shameless stalker. The moment those words left her mouth, Fang Yuan stood right up. Since Dr. Liu isn't willing to settle this peacefully, then we'll see each other in court. Liu Ruyan wasn't afraid of going to court. She knew that divorce lawsuits weren't that easy to win nowadays. At the very least, he needed to prove that their relationship had broken down. She still loved him. So how could their relationship be called broken down? Fang Yuan, you are mine, and you can only be mine. Fang Yuan, who had already walked far away, didn't hear this. Even if he had, he would only feel disgusted. Right now, he was just incredibly grateful that he had completely given up on her long ago and wouldn't hold out any hope for her ever again. Fang Yuan had long been prepared for a divorce lawsuit with Liu Ruyan. It would indeed be a hassle, which is why he initially chose to talk things out with her and have her sign the divorce agreement. But since she refused to cooperate, he wouldn't shy away from the hassle either. After consulting with his lawyer, Fang Yuan started gathering the necessary materials. As for evidence of Liu Ruyan's infidelity, since it happened quite a while ago, it would normally be hard to collect. But who told one of the main characters in this to be the once renowned principal ballet dancer of the Bluebird Opera House, Ji Boda? And who told Liu Ruyan to make such a huge scene out of it back then, to get revenge on him? Although the Liu family pulled Liu Ruyan out of the mess back then, the male lead of this drama did lose his job over it. Someone who knowingly becomes the other man is naturally disgusting. But a married woman, chatting and flirting with another man, and after things blow up, trying to shirk responsibility by using her family background to make herself invisible in the story, isn't a woman like that just as sickening? He dug up all the news related to that incident back then, along with evidence that he had consulted a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement before he left the country, and the fact that he asked her for a divorce multiple times 2 years later. He listed it all out and handed it over to his lawyer. This time, he was going to cut ties with her completely. After receiving the materials from Fang Yuan, the lawyer confidently assured him that these were more than enough, and that they would definitely win this divorce lawsuit flawlessly. When the time came, he wouldn't even need to show up in court himself. After Fang Yuan handed full authority over the divorce to his lawyer, all that was left was work. Fang Yuan, since you're back this time, if you don't want to go back to France, you can stay in the country. The company recently developed a new sector, and it'll be spun off into a separate branch later. Having you come back this time was also for this. If you stay, you can directly take over the branch. Fang Yuan was actually very tempted by Jack's offer. This was his homeland after all. Of course he'd be happy to stay. But being in France would be more helpful for his career. If he took over the branch, he would have a lot more responsibilities. He didn't have experience in that area, and didn't want to bite off more than he could chew. Plus, if his energy was divided, he'd have even less time for designing. So, after thinking for a long while, Fang Yuan finally answered, "Let me think about it a bit more. It's good to think it over carefully. But the branch can't wait too long." Jack wasn't surprised by his hesitation. He paused, then continued, "How about this? I'll give you 3 months. You try getting involved first, and give me your final answer in 3 months. If you decide to return to France, I'll arrange for someone else to take over." Fang Yuan accepted this proposal. 3 months' time was just enough for his divorce lawsuit to wrap up. Just as Fang Yuan stepped out of the company, he saw someone waiting at the door. The moment she saw him, she waved so hard, her arm could fall off. It was Song Shiyue. He was a bit surprised, and asked her, "Why are you here? Is the young miss of the Song family this free? And it's not even off work hours yet. How did you know I was leaving?" But she just acted all mysterious, and only gave him 2 words, "secret." He scoffed, not really caring about her acting mysterious. But when she dropped him off at home, watching her about to leave, he suddenly spoke up. "I might not be going back to France." The retreating figure suddenly stopped. She halted her steps, turned back to look at him, her eyes full of surprise. And if you looked closely, maybe even a tiny bit of disappointment. "You've decided?" Jack gave me a suggestion. "I haven't decided yet, but I did grow up here after all." Fang Yuan shook his head. He looked around, taking in the familiar surroundings. "Being able to stay. Of course I would prefer to stay here. He was born and raised on this land. This place would always be his home." But Song Shiyue was different. The Song family's main businesses were all abroad. Her parents and grandparents were also all abroad. Ultimately, she would probably still return to France. When Song Shiyue, she didn't look too happy. Fang Yuan knew why she was upset. During those 2 years abroad, when he was in an unfamiliar place with no connections, she gave him a lot of help. She followed him all the way from abroad back to their home country to back him up, saving him a lot of trouble. Even when she found out he wasn't divorced yet, she helped him find a lawyer, and even said she was willing to compromise and wait until his divorce. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but chuckle. If the Song family knew what she was thinking, they'd probably fly back right now and break her legs. Little did he know, the very day Song Shiyue said those things, the Song family's driver had already relayed the message back. The sharpness of her words absolutely shocked everyone in the Song family. Just a few days later, Old Master Song bought a plane ticket and flew back to the country, and indeed, gave Song Shiyu a severe scolding. Fang Yuan and Liu Ruian's divorce lawsuit had its first hearing a month later. The lawsuit was an easy win. They didn't even need a second hearing, and Fang Yuan got the verdict he wanted. The moment he got his divorce certificate, Fang Yuan felt completely refreshed. This was probably the most relaxed he had felt in the past 2 years. The obsession in his heart could finally be let go. From now on, he was thoroughly and completely done with that woman. After settling the matter with Liu Ruian, Fang Yuan ultimately chose to stay in the country and take over the branch company. He thought that, after their last conversation, Song Shiyue wouldn't come looking for him anymore. Who knew that on his first official day in office, Song Shiyue would still show up? "Ugh, I'm so hurt. I treat you so well. And yet, on such a big day, such a happy occasion, you didn't even tell me." Song Shiyu blocked Fang Yuan's path, putting on a sad, teary-eyed act. Fang Yuan took 2 steps back, stepping out from where her shadow fell on him, and turned his head slightly to look at her. In a place she couldn't see, a flush of red crept up his face. Even if I didn't tell you, didn't you find your way here anyway? You inviting me and me showing up myself are two totally different things. Fang Yuan, you better make it up to me and soothe my wounded heart. Seeing his eyes widen as he turned back, the heat on his face hadn't even fully subsided yet. Song Shiwei suddenly felt playful and pinched his cheek. Fang Yuan was very slim. He didn't have much meat on his face, so the pinch didn't feel all that great. Seeing the obvious annoyance on his face, she let go and smiled. How about this? Treat me to a meal. Consider it your apology. This wasn't an unreasonable request at all. Song Shiyu had helped him so much. He really did owe her a meal to express his gratitude. Fang Yuan nodded and agreed to her proposal. Seeing him nod, Song Shiyu brightened up. She clamored that since he was treating her, she should be the one to pick the restaurant. Having already agreed to one request, Fang Yuan didn't dwell on this point either, and let her choose. It wasn't until they arrived at the chosen restaurant that he realized she had picked a couple's restaurant. He paused and glanced at her, but seeing her look like she didn't care at all, he hesitated a few times, and ultimately didn't say anything. Maybe it was just a random restaurant she picked. If he brought it up out of nowhere, it might just make things more awkward. Lost in his own thoughts, he didn't notice Song Shiyu walking ahead of him, secretly curling her lips into a smile. Led by the waiter, the two of them arrived at their reserved private room. Not long after, they sat down. The waiter started bringing out the food. Fang Yuan was stunned again. Seeing her raise an eyebrow, he knew it was her, who had already pre-ordered the food when booking the restaurant. Looking closely at the dishes on the table, they were all his favorite flavors. He spaced out, feeling a complex mix of emotions in his heart. She was really good to him, but her good intentions, he felt like he'd inevitably have to let her down in the end. While he was zoning out, the waiter had already brought out the final dish, holding a dessert. Wearing a standard smile, "Sir, Miss Yu, our restaurant is having a promotion today. You are the 520th couple to dine with us today." Note, 520 sounds like I love you in Chinese. This is a complimentary dessert for our 2 lucky customers. Please enjoy. Fang Yuan snapped back to reality and immediately caught the word couple from the waiter. His face instantly flushed beet red, just as he was frantically trying to explain. Song Shiyu on the other side had already smoothly responded to the waiter. "Thank you so much." The waiter smiled, nodded, and left the room. Fang Yuan turned his head, just about to say something, when he saw her looking incredibly happy, smiling with total satisfaction. She even took that complimentary, heart-shaped dessert the waiter just brought, pushed it towards him, and said, "Try it. The desserts here are pretty good." Seeing this, he couldn't help but look a bit annoyed. "You did that on purpose?" Song Shiyu shrugged, putting on an "I've been falsely accused" expression, and leaned in closer to him. "Fang Yuan, how could you think of me like that? It really breaks my heart." Fang Yuan shook off his goosebumps and rubbed away the goosebumps her words gave him. He picked up a piece of dessert from the platter and stuffed it into her mouth. "Just eat your food." But this little episode was considered past just like that. After the meal, the two walked out of the restaurant one after the other. Song Shiyu said she was going to get the car. Fang Yuan watched her retreating back and spaced out for a moment. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. He looked closely and realized this sudden arrival was Liu Ruyan. Her eyes were full of pain. She reached out and grabbed Fang Yuan's hand, but the first thing she did was question him. "Are you insisting on divorcing me because of her?" Fang Yuan pulled his hand back in disgust and looked at Liu Ruyan like she was crazy. "Do you seriously have zero self-awareness? Why I want to divorce you? Do you really not know? Why drag other people into this? I just made a mistake that any woman would make. Why do you just refuse to forgive me?" It was like she couldn't understand human language and tried to grab his hand again. "Fang Yuan, give me one more chance. I promise you, I will treat you well from now on, okay? You clearly loved me so much before. How can you just leave like that and not even give me a single chance?" The moment her hand reached out again, Fang Yuan stepped back sharply, putting distance between them. "Miss Liu, please have some self-respect. This time, The look in his eyes towards her was nothing but icy cold. If you put your hands on me again, even though you're a woman, I wouldn't mind calling the cops and inviting you to have a chat at the station. I just don't know if you causes another scandal. Can the Liu family still suppress the heat for you if things get serious? I don't know if Dr. Liu will be able to keep her position this time. His words were ruthless enough, and enough to stop her right in her tracks. Liu Ruyan's face was still full of pain, but she didn't dare step forward any further, because she knew, with his current attitude towards her, he absolutely meant what he said. Right at that moment, Song Shiyue pulled up in her car. She took one look at Liu Ruyan, who still looked heartbroken, and scoffed. Some people don't know how to cherish a husband when they have one, insisting on messing around outside. And when the husband is gone, they cry and act regretful. Seeing Liu Ruyan's face getting darker and darker, she looked away and ignored her. Instead, she looked at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, get in. I'll take you home. Fang Yuan didn't care what Liu Ruyan's expression was, or what she was thinking. He walked past her to the car, pulled the door open, got in, and told Song Shiyue to drive. With a swift roger that, the car immediately drove off, leaving Liu Ruyan with nothing but a face full of exhaust. Liu Ruyan couldn't help but cough a few times, watching the two fade into the traffic. Her face was filled with resentment. Why? She didn't commit any heinous crime. She just momentarily drifted away from their marriage for a bit. She didn't even cross the line physically. Why was Fang Yuan so adamant about not forgiving her? She couldn't figure it out, and no one gave her the answer. She stubbornly held on to her own beliefs, never once thinking she was in the wrong. But now, even the marriage certificate, their only connection, was severed because of his ruthlessness. It seemed she had no more excuses to approach him. And 3 days later, something even more devastating to her happened. Fang Yuan and Song Shiyue were together. Liu Ruyan looked at the photo, sent from an unknown number on her phone, her eyes suddenly turning red. In the photo were Fang Yuan and Song Shiyue kissing passionately. Backing up to 3 days ago, after dropping Fang Yuan off at home, Song Shiyue didn't leave. Fang Yuan was also a bit confused. Today, everything Song Shiyue did and said seemed strange. Clearly, the other day when he told her he might stay in the country, her reaction when she left seemed to tell him that she was giving up on him. But today, whether it was her sudden appearance or the deliberate, indulgent flirting at the restaurant, it all sent him a signal. She seemingly hadn't given up yet. But back then, when he wasn't even sure if he would ultimately stay or leave, she was already so disappointed. So now that he had confirmed he was staying, why was she suddenly reviving the flame? Fang Yuan voiced his confusion, but she looked at him in disbelief. Fang Yuan, you're not planning to pump and dump me, are you? At this remark, Fang Yuan was the one who was shocked. Song Shiyu, don't just accuse me of things. When have I ever pumped and dumped you? My family found out I said I wanted to be your other woman. They flew back from abroad and gave me a severe beating. They even said if I can't openly and honestly win you over, they won't even let me back in the house. Fang Yuan, do you have the heart to let me sleep on the streets? She looked at Fang Yuan pitifully, her eyes sending signals of utter distress. But Fang Yuan didn't buy it. When he looked at Song Shiyu, his eyes spelled out one word: disbelief. Even if they don't let you go home, I don't believe you don't have other properties. Even if you can't go to those places, you're so rich, you could easily stay very comfortably in any hotel. Seeing Fang Yuan didn't believe her, she started explaining again. They took away my keys and froze my bank cards. If you don't take me in, I really will have to sleep on the streets. Fang Yuan, how can you be so heartless? Actually, hearing her say this, Fang Yuan pretty much guessed her real intention. He couldn't help but turn serious, looking at her earnestly, laying it all out on the table. I told you last time, I'll be staying in the country from now on, but you will eventually return to France. Before he could finish, Song Shiyue suddenly started laughing. Fang Yuan, you don't have to worry about that. My grandpa already said it. Yes, the Song family's main business is abroad, but that doesn't mean we have nothing here. Besides, grandpa is getting old. He already had thoughts of returning to the country. Old folks, they want to return to their roots. So now, all your worries are solved. Can you accept me now? Fast forward to 3 days later. Seeing the two laughing together, Liu Ruyan was about to go mad with jealousy. She simply couldn't believe that Fang Yuan had actually gotten together with someone else. But no matter what she thought, it didn't change the fact that Fang Yuan and Song Shiyue were really together. The news even made headlines. Spreading alongside this news was the rumor that the Song family intended to expand into the domestic market. At a critical juncture like this, anyone could guess the real reason behind the Song family's move. So, under this trending topic, netizens gossiped endlessly, exclaiming how sweet it was. What a beautiful love story. So jealous. When will a plot like this happen to me? To the person above, I suggest you go to sleep right now. Dreaming is faster. Did I wander into some idle drama? I'm so incredibly jealous. All kinds of comments flooded the screen, mostly teasing and giving blessings. But one newly posted comment was full of malice. Hooking up with a rich family right after a divorce. Who knows what dirty tricks he used? But very quickly, even before Song Shiyue needed to intervene, the commenter was chased and cursed out so badly that they deleted the comment and ran. They even deactivated their account entirely. The netizens handled it so fast that Song Shiyue had nowhere to vent her anger. Fang Yuan looked at her puffed up, angry face and couldn't hold back a laugh. But seeing her resentful glare shoot over, he quickly wiped the smile off his face. She pouted, turned her head away, refusing to look at him, and muttered softly, "Who do you think I'm getting mad for? And you still laugh at me, you ungrateful jerk." Hearing her complain with such resentment, he pinched her cheek. He only let go when she glared at him again. Turning serious, he said, all right. It's just a comment on the internet. It's not like I'm gonna lose a piece of flesh. Besides, didn't the netizens already curse them out for me? Look, the netizens are still very rational, because the Song family started expanding their domestic market. Song Shiyue also started getting busy. She could no longer be like before, constantly keeping tabs on Fang Yuan's whereabouts. But precisely because of this, during a chat, Fang Yuan found out from Jack that the reason she always managed to show up at the perfect time was because she had bribed Jack. He almost laughed out of anger, and she even acted all mysterious with him. Turns out she was just using the magic of money. When she gets back, I really need to teach her a lesson. How dare she spy on me? Over the phone, Jack's voice came through, suppressing a laugh. Then you better not say I told you, okay? Otherwise, I'm going to lose a source of income from now on. That afternoon, when Fang Yuan got off work, he didn't see Song Shiyu. Instead, he saw someone completely unexpected, Liu Ruyan. He frowned, looking at the heavily disguised woman in front of him. He subconsciously took a step back. Why are you here again? Liu Ruyan didn't answer Fang Yuan's question. Her expression was unreadable. She only said one sentence. Fang Yuan, is it really impossible for us? Seeing she still refused to give up, Fang Yuan couldn't be bothered to waste breath on her. He had rejected her countless times. But she was always like a dogskin plaster who couldn't understand human language, living in her own world. Continuing to talk to her would just be playing the lute to a cow. He walked past her, heading toward where he parked his car. But before he took a few steps, he suddenly smelled a pungent odor. A feeling of unease rose in his heart. He quickened his pace, walked to the car, unlocked it, opened the door, all in one smooth motion. Just as he was about to relax, a wave of dizziness hit him. He collapsed, powerlessly. Before passing out, he forced his consciousness to take one last look. And what met his eyes was Liu Ruyan's look of absolute certainty. Fang Yuan, why couldn't you just be a good boy and listen to me? 3 hours later, Fang Yuan finally woke up. Wherever he looked, the familiar furniture and layout all told him that was their marital home. The only difference from when he left 2 years ago was that she had, based on her memory, repurchased all the things he had thrown away and restocked them. Seeing him awake, the woman's voice rang in his ear. Fang Yuan, look at this room. Isn't it exactly the same as it was back then? You really threw away a lot of things back then. It wasn't easy to buy it all back. I searched for a long time to finally get everything completely replaced. She kept talking to herself, then suddenly seemed to remember something. She took off the ring she wore around her neck, grabbed his hand, and ignoring Fang Yuan's resistance, put the ring on him. I got this wedding ring back too. Fang Yuan, this time, please don't leave me, okay? Fang Yuan had been drugged, although he was awake now. His head was still feeling a bit dizzy, but the moment Liu Ruyan touched him, a wave of nausea still surged in his heart. He subconsciously tried to break free, but, with his limbs feeling weak, he still couldn't fend off Liu Ruyan's questioning. Upon hearing her words, Fang Yuan couldn't hold it back for a second, and actually just threw up. His reaction made Liu Ruyan's face darken completely. Do you really find me that disgusting? But, Fang Yuan, you clearly used to love me so much. You've already loved me for so long. Why can't you just love me a little bit more? After throwing up, Fang Yuan's consciousness finally cleared up, and he regained some of his strength. He forcefully threw her hand off. His face was full of disbelief. Liu Ruyan, are you out of your mind? This is illegal. Do you even know that? Yeah, I am out of my mind. But she just laughed, mockingly, completely unbothered. Then, she looked deeply and affectionately at the man lying on the bed. Fang Yuan, I really can't live without you. I used to think the person I loved was Boda. That's why I strayed for him. But Fang Yuan, when I realized you had left me behind, the pain in my heart told me that I had actually fallen in love with you long ago. Back then, when Ji Boda abandoned me to go abroad, I didn't even feel this heartbroken. Fang Yuan, I really know I was wrong. Please, forgive me. Okay. Fang Yuan sat up from the bed, backing up repeatedly to avoid her hand trying to touch him. Then, with a loud yi smacke, he slapped her hard across the face. Liu Ruyan, what right do you have to beg for forgiveness? Yes, I did love you once, but as you said, that was once. Not anymore. When I loved you, you didn't cherish it. Your heart and eyes were completely filled with your first love. For him, you could even throw away your professional ethics as a doctor. Now that I'm gone, you say you've fallen in love with me. I don't think so. Is it me that you love? I'd say not entirely. Everything you're doing right now is nothing but your unwillingness to accept defeat and your shattered ego acting up. You just can't stand being abandoned. Abandoned by your parents. Abandoned by your sweetheart. And now, abandoned by me. The person you used to think was the most unlikely to ever leave you, but you're just that cheap. The more someone loves you, the less you care. And the more someone wants to leave you, the more you try to hold on. But, Liu Ruyan, no one is going to stand in place and wait for you forever. Look, even your parents didn't want you. Who exactly gave you the confidence to think that someone could never live without you? Fang Yuan was by Liu Ruyan's side from when she was 15 to 27, a full 12 years. She had occupied the most important part of his life, so naturally, he also knew exactly where to twist the knife to make it hurt her the most. His merciless words truly stabbed Liu Ruyan right where it hurt. Her eyes turned bloodshot. Driven mad and losing all reason, Liu Ruyan lunged forward recklessly, trying to grab him. But, just as she got close to Fang Yuan, he casually grabbed a vase from behind him and violently smashed it against her head with a loud eye crash. The vase shattered from the immense force, followed by the sound of porcelain shards flying and hitting the floor. Intense pain jolted her nerves. She reached up to wipe it, and the spot she was hit felt sticky. When she brought her hand down, it was covered in bright red blood. Under the pain, her rationality was forcibly dragged back. Looking at Fang Yuan, who was still pointing a jagged piece of the vase at her, she smiled bitterly. You actually hurt me. It seemed she never expected Fang Yuan would suddenly retaliate against her. Her heart felt utterly desolate. Seeing his eyes full of vigilance, she also fell silent, saying nothing more. She turned around, walked out the door, and locked it, completely sealing his presence inside the room. As the sound of the lock clicking into place echoed, her voice traveled through the door. Fang Yuan, it's okay even if you hate me. It's okay no matter how you provoke me. It's okay even if you hurt me. I will give you time to calm down. I won't let you leave. Fang Yuan, you have to believe me. I really cannot live without you. Inside the room, Fang Yuan ignored her words. He started frantically searching the room. He couldn't stay trapped here forever. He had to escape. He didn't know if Song Shiyu had noticed he was missing yet, or if she was getting worried. He had to get back quickly. He couldn't let Song Shiyu worry. On the other side, as soon as Song Shiyu had a free moment, she called Jack. After learning that Fang Yuan had already gotten off work and gone home, she quickly wrapped up the work she had on hand and hurried home. But when she arrived, the house was dead silent. No sound, not even a light on. It was so quiet that a trace of panic suddenly gripped her heart. She searched the entire place. No one. She pulled up the security camera footage and found that Fang Yuan hadn't come home at all. That trace of unease in her heart grew even stronger. Song Shiyu took out her phone and tried calling Fang Yuan first. She only hung up when the automated voice said no one was answering. And then she dialed again, but again and again. It remained unanswered. She called Jack again. After confirming that Fang Yuan had indeed left the company on time, both of them started to panic. They called the police, and after rushing around for a long time, they finally found the answer in the underground parking lot. Song Shiyu stared at the security footage, watching it play until someone sneaked up behind Fang Yuan, sprayed him with a knockout drug. Was a woman who took him away after he passed out. The police also became alert, doing it so blatantly. She really doesn't take us seriously at all, does she? One of the officers remarked, and began analyzing the information in the video. Judging from the security footage, this woman should know Mr. Fang, although the two didn't have a conversation. Based on Mr. Fang's body language, they should be very familiar, but she should be someone he finds quite annoying. As soon as this description came out, Song Shiyu instantly thought of a person who ever since Fang Yuan returned to the country, had been constantly harassing him. The woman named Liu Ruyan. Having gotten this information, tracking her down became much simpler. Liu Ruyan didn't have many properties under her name, and the ones she frequently visited recently were even fewer. With just a simple check, they could see that she returned to the house she had always been living in, and the footage of her supporting Fang Yuan made no attempt to hide. So, not long after Liu Ruyan finished bandaging the wound on her head, the doorbell rang. She paused her movement of packing the medical kit and looked up towards the door. The doorbell kept ringing, over and over, tirelessly. It seemed they were certain she was home, and wouldn't give up until she opened the door. Liu Ruyan got up, walked to the door, and opened it. Even when she saw it was the police, she didn't panic at all. "Officers, you came looking for me. Is there something the matter?" Her composed demeanor. If the police hadn't seen with their own eyes the process of her drugging and taking the person away, they probably would have doubted themselves and wondered if they had the wrong person. He pulled out his police badge and showed it to Liu Ruyan, then pointed to the body camera on his lapel. "Are you Ms. Liu Ruyan?" Seeing the woman nod, he continued, "It's like this. Today, we received a report that Mr. Fang suddenly went missing. We were wondering if you had any leads." As he spoke, one of the officers' gaze fell on her bandaged head. He asked, "How did you get this injury? Are you all right?" Liu Ruyan's gaze swept past Song Shiyu, who was standing behind the police. She smiled and shook her head. "I haven't seen him today, so I don't have any leads. As for the injury on my head, I'm a doctor. There was a bit of a conflict at the hospital today, and I got hit, but it's already been treated. It's nothing serious." The two officers exchanged a glance. Couldn't help but admire the psychological fortitude of the person in front of them, truly worthy of being a doctor. The police went on to ask a few more questions. Liu Ruyan answered them all smoothly. Seeing that the police didn't seem to have any more questions to ask, she let out a sigh of relief internally, and even threw a somewhat smug glance at Song Shiyu. Just at that moment, a muffled thud suddenly came from inside the house, like the sound of something smashing down. Liu Ruyan's face stiffened. The two officers and Song Shiyu barged right in without hesitation, running towards the direction of the sound. With this, what else was there for Liu Ruyan to not understand? As soon as the sound came out, the police didn't even ask a single extra question, and just rushed straight over. They probably knew it was her all along. Her expression turned ugly, her hands clenched into tight fists. But she also knew She had no way of keeping Fang Yuan today. Plus, with her false testimony just now, she was probably going to be in huge trouble. Liu Ruyan didn't think twice. Seeing that their attention was all on the inner room, she turned around and dashed out the door, wanting to escape first. But, right as she ran out the door, she ran smack into an officer guarding outside. When Liu Ruyan was pinned down on the spot, the 3 officers inside, along with Song Shiyue supporting Fang Yuan, all walked out. Seeing that there was suddenly an extra person, Liu Ruyan didn't know whether she should be happy or unhappy. Should she say they valued her too much, or valued Fang Yuan? Because she was caught red-handed, Liu Ruyan was taken back to the police station and detained. After Fang Yuan and Song Shiyue gave their statements, they went home together. Fang Yuan was incredibly quiet the entire way. It wasn't until the moment they finally arrived home that he hugged Song Shiyue, suppressing his sobs. Song Shiyue, I thought I was never going to see you again. Song Shiyue rarely saw Fang Yuan like this. Her heart ached as she held him tightly in her arms. Her voice was also full of lingering fear. I'm sorry, it took me too long to find you. After a long while, Fang Yuan's emotions finally stabilized. How did you guys find me? Fang Yuan wasn't too surprised that they were able to find him. What was strange was that it seemed like when they came looking, they had already confirmed it was Liu Ruyan who took him. On one hand, they had people draw attention from the front, and they even arranged for someone to rescue him from the back. Such a flawless plan didn't seem like mere suspicion. Song Shiyue let out a scoff. Her eyes were full of disdain and mockery towards Liu Ruyan. That idiot. She just brazenly made her move and left like that. It'd be hard not to know it was her. At first, seeing her so arrogant, we thought she had lost her mind and was preparing to just use force. That's why the police station sent out so many people. But then, seeing her still trying to cover it up when the police questioned her, we realized she was just plain stupid. Fang Yuan also didn't expect the police mobilizing so many people. Was because of this reason, he couldn't help but pause. But in that moment, there was also a hint of frustration in his heart. Her actions were so stupid, and he still managed to fall for it. He really shouldn't have. Perhaps seeing what was on Fang Yuan's mind, she couldn't help but laugh. I mean, who would have thought that someone in their right mind could do something so insanely out of their mind? It's normal that you didn't expect it in the moment. Besides, didn't you realize it later? You just didn't have time to dodge, that's all. Fang Yuan accepted this explanation, but after a while, he sighed again. The Liu family won't just bail her out again this time, will they? If she gets out, I'll have to live in fear every single day. Song Shiyue rubbed his head, comforting him. Don't worry. This time the evidence is solid, and she was caught red-handed. If the Liu family wants to save her, their only option is to plead insanity. But if they dare try that, I can make sure she stays in a psychiatric hospital for the rest of her life. Furthermore, if the Liu family wants to protect Liu Ruyan, they have to see if my Song family agrees to it first. Do you really think the Liu family would? Often the Song family, for a daughter they've already abandoned once. Hearing Song Shiyue's explanation, Fang Yuan finally felt relieved. 5 months later, Liu Ruyan's verdict came down. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison because of the Song family's intervention. The Liu family didn't dare to make a move. Just as Song Shiyue had predicted, there was no need for the Liu family to offend the Song family. For a daughter they had already abandoned once. The reason the Liu family intervened last time was because as long as they protected her, the Liu family could still have a highly esteemed daughter, making a name for herself outside. But this time, even if they intervene, she could never return to her former position. A daughter who had lost her use value could naturally be easily discarded. The person who once hated being abandoned the most ultimately became the one abandoned by everyone, this time without the Liu family to suppress the heat for her. Everything she had ever done was dug up. In an instant she became the notorious one. Even Jing'an Hospital, which had once covered for her, suffered a blow to its reputation because of this. 2 years later, Fang Yuan and Song Shiyue held a grand wedding. Old Master Song, along with Song Shiyue's parents, all flew back from abroad. Jack, as the only groomsman invited by the groom, was so busy his feet barely touched the ground. Finally getting a moment to breathe, he looked at Fang Yuan with a resentful face. Hey, Fang Yuan. I was once your boss, all right? Now that you're the boss of the branch company, you're just ordering me around like this. Fang Yuan gave an awkward smile. Ah, isn't it because you're my only good friend? And you treat me the best? Jack shuddered, rubbing off his goosebumps, and pushed him away without mercy. Oh, spare me. Save these little tricks for your wife. This magnificent wedding was talked about for a long time. For a while, it even became the go-to gossip for the people of City A, but in a corner no one noticed. Having served her sentence and been released, the notorious Liu Ruian held a battered old phone in her hand, watching the news, seeing Fang Yuan, his face full of happiness, walking towards another woman. She couldn't help her eyes turning red. Such happiness was clearly supposed to be hers. But she personally threw away the boy who loved her the most. From then on, happiness had nothing to do with her. The only thing she could do now was hide in the shadows and watch the person who once lived in her heart spend the rest of his life hand in hand with someone else. The end.